Hello, book besties.
I'm Albie.
And I'm Nikki,
Welcome to Backstage with the Book Babes.
where we spill the tea on the secret lives of your favorite romance authors. We have a very interesting author we're talking to today, so we can't wait to introduce you to him. But first off, what have you been up to, Albie?
I just got back from Sports Romance Con, which
Yay!
was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Completely honored that I was able to attend, that I was able to be on the panel for underrepresented sports. Fingers crossed, maybe they'll invite me back next year.
Me too, hopefully.
What about you?
I didn't get to go,
Yes,
but
let's both go next year.
that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I just had my release of my newest book. By the time this is out, it'll have been out for a little while, but that was the most exciting thing last week. So that's my roller derby romance, which I have been talking about as we go. But there she is. And
Gorgeous.
yeah,
Purple like your hair.
Yes, purple like my hair. My whole vibe is purple. My husband said about my last series, I was showing him my whole stack of my last series plus this one, and he's like, "You're going to run out of colors." And I said, "Well, I can reuse the same colors, maybe different shades for my next series. Whatever, it's all good."
Yeah, that sounds great. You could do all shades of purple.
Oh my goodness, I could have a purple series. Wow, you just changed my life.
I love it. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so release day was fun. It was like a little weird because I was supposed to be at Sports Romance Con, but instead I was at home doing chores and, the usual nonsense. But anyway, I did what I could. We had like a little bit of wine and, celebrated
Good
at home.
celebration.
Yeah. But now here we are. Now I'm just deep in the next book, of course, because it never stops. Never stops.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. And now we're super excited to introduce you to JD Harbour, a huge book babe. Welcome to you, JD.
Hi, thank you for having me, and congrats on your release.
Thank you. It's always exciting, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So you used to be a photojournalist, but now you write rom-coms. Can you tell us a little bit about your Romantisea Serenades series?
So I started writing a couple years ago and was looking to get back into kind of the storytelling stuff and was trying to figure out what direction to take and whatnot. And, I got a lot of feedback of write what you know, write what you love. And I love cruising. I love love. I love the idea of romance. And so it kind of just made sense that I dove into writing romance books that meet cutes happen on a cruise ship. And then, life has to be figured out after that point. But
Yeah.
it makes for a really fun opportunity to take two people from different worlds, throw them together on a ship, let ship happen for a week, and then after that, then they got to figure out, okay, 1 week of vacation is over, but now we got to figure out, we come from different worlds, we got to figure out how to make things happen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
and
they
the real
kinda
world kicks in.
Yeah, it starts with like the fun cruisy, and then you kind of move into their everyday lives.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's the important part,
I
right?
like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You can't have a happy ever after 1 week of knowing somebody. So you got to figure out what then.
Exactly. I like that. Those careers feel like very different. Like they're both storytelling. One is a very visual art form and one is a more like literary art form. How did it go switching media like that? How did that work mentally?
So it's actually not as separate as one might think. In my prior career in the military, I was a photojournalist, which included photos and writing. But basically, and the difference between my previous life and my new life. Previously, I would meet people from the military and share their stories. My favorite story that I got to tell while I was in the military was we were deployed and the chef in the kitchen was from New York. And used his resources, reached back to people he knew back in Brooklyn, and got everything required dough, water from New York, shipped over to Iraq. So that way he could make New York style pizza for all the troops once a month. And it was all his own resources and stuff. And I got to meet him and tell that story, but I only had maximum 1,000 words to be able to tell everything about what he was doing. Now I've got up to 100,000 words to really dive into the backstory and get to know these characters. They're fictional. They derived from some people that I've known throughout the years, but it gives me a lot more runway to really dive in and tell a full and complete story.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's yeah, I like does that mean like your books are very character driven then?
They are absolutely character driven. I try to bring in some humor, some heart and stuff, but everything that I do is in service of helping that character grow.
Emerald
Oh, good.
Tides is the first book in the series. So was this the first book that you wrote as well? Or did you write other manuscripts, any other fiction projects that you shoved in a drawer and haven't published yet or might eventually?
So Emerald Tide was not the first book I wrote. It was I actually wrote Emerald Tide and Sapphire Seas jointly together. But the first book I actually wrote was Scarlet Wave. And
Okay.
I had that written probably about 80 to 90% complete. And Scarlet Wave is very much mine and my wife's story, kind of reimagined and whatnot. And I really wanted to make sure that one was perfect. So I got close to the end of that one, put that on the shelf, and went over and wrote Emerald Tide and Sapphire Seas. And then after I was done with that and released that, I was able to finish up the last little bit of Scarlet Wave, as well as Golden Shores, and break that out and get that released as well last year.
Oh, that's so exciting. I love that.
It was also kind of during the process of writing Emerald Tide and Sapphire Seas that I kind of unlocked something within my brain to where I was originally writing a typical dual perspective where you jump back and forth, his side, her side, every chapter. And writing Emerald Tide and Sapphire Seas, it kind of unlocked my brain. Like, both of these characters deserve a full story, something that could not be contained to just every other chapter in a book. They had their own story that they were living because they came from different worlds. So it really unlocked my brain to be able to say, write these in a dual novel duet where each side of this love story gets a full opportunity to share their story.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you recommend a specific reading order for them or just either way works?
So you can read these books in any order. They all have the happily ever after. They are a romance. So it's spoiling a little bit knowing one side versus the other because you see the ending. But I liken it to, like, when I was growing up, I used to talk to Grandma and Grandpa about their love story. Grandpa would say he was the star of the football team, he was debonair, he was a smooth talker, and he was the shits giggles. You talk to Grandma, she tells the exact opposite story, that he was a bumbling buffoon, he didn't know anything what he was doing, and she taught him everything he knew. So same first dates, same experiences, wildly different stories. So that's kind of where I took these from.
You have you have several books out, and they're all
Yes.
kind of interconnected, right? What about those ones? Not just the ones that are like dual books, but the other books in the collection. Are they
So
also like?
these two novellas, Riot
Mhm.
Amber and Amplified Pyrite, they are standalone completely. They focus on just one character, kind of a side character from the other books that I'm like, this just feels like they deserve a little bit more.
Mhm.
Each of their stories is fully encompassed within the 1 week on the ship. So there's not a before the cruise, after the cruise, anything like that. It really hones in on just the vacation experience. And they're fun little side stories.
That's awesome.
Nice. I think you answered most of the questions we had about the
Yeah.
stories being related. Yeah.
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
didn't
So
answer. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so they are not required to read in any order. You can start with Scarlet Wave, jump over to Amplified Pyrite, pick up Emerald Tide. They all are interconnected in that they take place on the same ship with the same singles cruise experience, but they all happen at different times.
So they are all about passengers on the ship. Do you get into any of the stories about the crew on the ship, or is that something you're thinking of doing eventually?
So I do have one that's planned. It's a male-male romance between a bouncer on the ship and a stage performer. So that one is in the works and it's coming. But for the most part, these stories tend to focus on the passengers.
Nice. Love that.
Nice. Do you have readers who do read them out of order, or does everyone that you meet they're like, nope, I still like to start with one and work my way through?
So I've heard a lot of different readers read them in different ways. Some like to start with the female's point of view. Some start with the male's point of view because it's something a little bit different than what a lot is out there. I've even had some who really, really want that dual perspective bouncing back and forth every other chapter. And they will read one chapter from his, one chapter from hers simultaneously throughout.
That's fun.
And they've done that as well.
That way you don't get any spoilers till the end. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure.
Fun.
Nice. That's awesome. And then what is the spice factor on your books? I know it's highly subjective, but where would you consider them on your spice scale?
So I would probably rate these about a 3 out of 5 spicy scale. It's story dependent. For example, Rye Amber is about 100 pages, and there's 2 sex scenes in there. Where Amplified Pyrite is about the same length, there's only 1 sex scene. It just kind of story dependent. I don't like to necessarily write sex for the sake of having sex happen. I like there to be a character-driven purpose for sexual encounters. So just for example, in Riot Amber is kind of her story is about rediscovering her past self. She is fall from grace rock star who's trying to just rediscover her voice, more or less. The first sex scene in the book is highly spicy. It happens on the beach in public. It's more of a reclamation of her rebellious side, her grabbing her rebellion back. The second sex scene is quieter, more subdued inside of the cabin, which is her claiming more of her personality back, her own desires.
Love that.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. I like to do the same. I think I tend to prefer not just like gratuitous sex. I mean, obviously, I love the insta love, high heat. But a lot of times, the books that I continually go back to are ones where you're like, okay, I can see the progression of the relationship within these moments.
For sure. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And sometimes like some
Absolutely.
tropes are very conducive to, like, if they have a one night stand and then that turns into a relationship, obviously you're going to have that right up front. Whereas if it's something more slow burning, slow building, then it'll happen later.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So you have rapid released the books that you have out so far. Did you write all of them in advance, or were they partially in advance? Do you have the whole series planned out before you started releasing them, or was it sort of some of it and then you worked as you went?
So I started writing Scarlet Wave, like I had mentioned, and then that was pretty much complete when I had turned over and started working on Emerald Tide and Sapphire Seas. And so, but by the time Emerald Tide and Sapphire Seas was released and live, Scarlet Wave and Golden Shores was fully complete, at least in draft status. I still had to do some edits and stuff to get ready for release, but those were done. So by the time my first duet released, I had 4 books ready to go.
Nice.
More or less. My 2 novellas kind of were written later. They were Amplified Pyrite was written in about 2 weeks. Riot Amber. I actually had a dream that just woke me up in the middle of the night one night, and I frustrated my wife because I turned on all the lights. I started writing notes. I'm like, I know how this next story starts, and I wound up writing that whole story in one weekend. Like it came to me, and I just sat down, pumped it out, and then sat on it for 6 months. But at this point in time, I now like wishing maybe I would have held off a few more because I don't have any ready to release right this second. So now it's going to be a minute.
Yeah. It's always a hard decision to make as an author of like how quickly you're going to release things, how far in advance you're going to be planning, because you do kind of want to buy yourself that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then did you say that you're working on a male one right now?
Yes, so one thing that I love about this cruise ship atmosphere is the diversity that I can build into the cruises, because it's not just neurotypical people. It's not just straight, cisgendered, or anything like that. It is a whole world of people all mixing and mingling on board a cruise ship. And so I plan to have a male-male romance. I've got a sapphic romance planned. I've got a romance that's between socioeconomic classes, kind of a Romeo and Juliet style. But, when you're on a cruise ship, there are so many people from everywhere around the world. Or from cultures, from backgrounds, and pretty much everybody's there in the same ship. If the ship happens to sink, it doesn't care what your wealth status is, what your background is, who you love, who loves you. The ship's going to sink regardless. So it's kind of that perfect conglomeration of just everybody's there, have a good time, and
Love it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
let everything else figure itself out.
Yeah.
Let's hope the ship
And is this
doesn't
going to be
sink,
part
though.
of that? Yeah, fingers crossed.
No, my fictional ship will not sink.
Good.
Good.
That wouldn't be a happy ever after.
No.
Is that going to be the same series, or is that going to be the start of a new series?
So all of my Romantisea Serenades are going to be part of the same series. It's the same ship is carrying over. I've got one character who will be in every story. Her name's Maude. She's kind of a spiritual guider, mystical type of person, but she's real life. In fact, she's based on a cruise host that helped push my wife and I together on the cruise that we met.
Cute.
So, in fact, her name's Maude, and we went to an event in South Florida last year, which is by where she lives. And it was the first time I was able to meet with her after the books was released. I gave her copies and stuff.
Aw.
And we were driving back home, and we got a phone call from her. She was in tears. She's like, "You guys don't know this. You didn't know this. You had no way to know this. But my grandmother's name was Maude." And she was just in tears, like, that I had named her Maude. I'm like, no, I had no idea. But that is, like, it makes sense.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's so fun. And as you're writing, do you need any specific vibes to get in the mood for your writing? Do you have any snacks, music? What kind of vibes do you like?
So, it depends. I'm very ADHD coded, and like I need stuff to fidget with my fingers and stuff, even when I'm not typing. Like, so I'll have snacks, I'll have drinks. I also tend to there's a YouTube video that I find that just is a 10-hour continuous loop of a camera pointing off the back of a cruise ship.
Oh, fun.
So it makes me feel like,
Nice.
it makes me feel like I'm on vacation, even when I'm not, a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like I need to watch that right now. It's pouring down rain outside.
oh no.
Oh dear. And then, so you started as a photojournalist, but I think you also draw. Is that what it is? Did I see that you illustrate your own
Mhm.
covers? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I do illustrate my covers. Here's actually one drawing that I did. So I started doing that way, but then I came across an artist who actually is doing my new covers from now on. She's in the process of, her name's Fairchild, and she's redoing all my covers for me. They're a little bit more aligned with each other, but I will still be doing the hand painted covers for my special editions.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay, nice.
I'll be doing at least the main books within the series. I'll be doing a hand painted cover, doing an initial run of that, and then switching over to more of a standard book cover that is being designed for me.
Nice.
Those special editions, are they just ordered from your websites or only from live events?
Primarily live events, although I do have a link on my link tree to be able to order the special editions if you want. But primarily, those are available at live events where I can hand sign them. You can see them and stuff.
Nice.
They are sold as matched pairs, to where you have his and her side of the story. And then I've got, if you can see
Pretty.
that.
Ooh, that's gorgeous.
So, got her name's Samantha. She's doing all the hand painting on all of them for me.
Nice.
So
Gorgeous. I love
those
that.
are really nice.
Very pretty. I do love a sprayed edge.
Oh my gosh, they're
Yes.
so hard to resist.
Seriously. So you said you started writing the cruise romances because that's how you met your wife, and you've got this whole series planned out. But do you ever think you might move into any other subgenres or anything else?
So I am working on a side project that is not related to my Romantisea Serenades. I don't want to share too much about it just yet because it's still early phases of production, but it's kind of a sci-fi action adventure romance. Think of like hot tub time machine comedy with Indiana Jones adventure, and at the end of the day, it will be a kind of a second chance romance.
Nice.
cute.
Sounds good.
I like that.
So.
Yeah. And then I think I saw on your website that you also help people plan cruises and theme park vacations. Do you go to these places to get experiences for your own book, or do you just happen to gain these experiences and then they influence your book?
So it's kind of one hand feeds the other, more or less.
Mhm.
I've been cruising since I was 13 years old. In fact, there's a picture that my parents got of me boarding my first cruise ship. It's punk teenager, pissed off at my parents because I wanted to go ride roller coasters for vacation and they took me to a floating boat. And so the picture, I am just pissed off. I refuse to smile. But by the time I got out, off of that ship, I was hooked. And I've been on close to 30 cruises since. I go every time I can. And so it also kind of just led into helping others plan their trips as well. So I primarily book cruises, but I also live here in Orlando where, Disney World, Universal Studios are. So I can provide a lot of insight as to, vacationing there as well.
That's awesome.
Nice.
It's helpful you live there too, because that's where a lot of the cruises take off from. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Yes. When I got out of the military, or when I retired from the military, I was finally able to actually choose where I wanted to live. And so my wife and I were like, where do we want to go? And Florida was the number one answer because we can go down there. We can hop on a cruise ship on just a 4-day weekend and we don't have to travel. We don't have to add in flight tickets or anything like that. It's just right and easy.
I love that.
Nice.
My mom's a big cruiser too. They go every year for at least a couple, but I've only ever been on one, but I had fun.
I'm a firm believer if you go on one, you'll be hooked for life.
Awesome.
That must be it because I've never been on one.
We don't go away too much because, costs a lot of money. We've got
Yeah.
kids.
Yes,
You know.
yeah, they're not cheap, but when you consider everything that's included on them, they tend to
For
become
sure.
a lot more affordable when you're not calculating in some of the extra costs on a land-based trip.
Definitely. Unfortunately,
I've
all
seen
my
some
current vacations are to book signing events,
Yeah.
but they're fun.
Yes.
Well,
We love those too.
I've seen articles though where people, instead of moving into retirement homes or like 55 and up homes, they've just live on cruise ships
Yeah.
because it's actually like a comparable price.
Yeah. And way more fun.
That seems like a dream.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that I could afford that myself, but
Yeah.
I
One
am a
day.
long way from, yes, maybe.
Well, you can write a book anywhere, right? That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Can't do my day job from anywhere, but,
Yeah, exactly. So being on all these cruises, you must meet a lot of people, interesting people, and being on the Lovelit cruise, you probably met some readers. Do you
Mhm.
any of them tell you stories of their own experience, hoping you'll include them in your books?
So not necessarily people telling me stuff about anything in order to be in the books, but one great thing about being on cruises is just everybody's guard is down and you can chat about anything with anybody and there's no judgment. It's just a lot freer conversational wise. And so I've met a lot of people who have just shared their cruising experiences, some of their favorite excursions and stuff like that. And so I've gotten to meet a lot of people doing that. I've also actually 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, we were on a cruise for Christmas because we didn't want to go play in the snow with my family. So we're like, hey, why don't we come down and go to Caribbean where it's not snowing? We were hanging out in the pool one day, just my wife and I having some drinks, and we were chatting with another couple there, and they had mentioned that they had met on a cruise. Right? No way. Same here. It actually turned out that they met via our same family friend who helped kind of push her and my wife and I together. So it was kind of a serendipitous, everybody kind of just happened onto the same cruise together. And we had
That's
a
so
similar
fun.
story there.
I love that.
I wonder how many couples she's put together.
Seriously.
I know personally 5 different couples that have met on board cruise ships. That are still doing great today. They're not like, couple months and flame out or nothing, but hanging out strong. 2 of our best friends, originally from Michigan and Canada, where I know you guys are, they met on a cruise ship and they now live here in Florida area. It's not super common, but it might be more common than what you could think.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So I did just get back from a conference with a ton of readers and authors and stuff.
Mhm.
So in romance, like the genre, in my personal especially MF romance. So that's more written by women in non-binary dominated field. How have you
Mhm.
experienced being a man in this industry?
So I've had a lot of enjoyment meeting others. I've met many people who have said that they are interested in reading my point of view because I'm not a woman, and they're looking for something different. But at the same time, I've also met some who like, I want to support other women. So they're not going to read my stuff, and I am perfectly okay with that. I am not in here trying to squash down anybody else's voices. I'm just trying to add an additional voice to the room. And for
Mhm.
those that I have met and have read my stuff, have really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty
I
of the
have seen
romance
in
community, right? Diversity and just everyone working together. And
Hmm.
that's what I love
Oh,
about it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've even seen in some of the readers groups where they ask specifically like, "Oh, I want to read a romance written by a man as well." So, yeah, I was
Right.
just always curious. Thank
That's
you.
so cool.
Yeah, no, and it's a great welcoming community. There's, we all love love. We're all
Yeah.
looking for that happy ever after. We're all looking for, we're looking for a feel good type of story. We're not looking for something that's going to just bring us down emotionally. In romance, we're looking for a good time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, or I was talking about your Love Lit cruise that you recently went on, which is a live book
Mhm.
signing event on a cruise ship, which was
Mhm.
one of the things that caught our eye. I thought that was so cool, especially
Mhm.
with your subgenre. It's like perfect. So can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
about how you got involved with that?
So I just got back off of the Lovelet cruise in early March, and it was a lot of fun. It was not your typical book signing convention or nothing because one, you were trapped on the ship for 5 days. So we were, at your normal readers convention, you see readers, you see other authors for one day. Or, maybe 2 days if it's a full weekend event. And typically you only get maybe 5-minute interaction between author and reader where they walk by your table, you pitch your book, and then they move on. This was really different. It was really small and intimate group. I think there was less than 200 people total between authors and readers
Oh, wow.
within our group. So it really gave everybody a chance to hang out together. We had dinner every night with a different group of people, and I got to know other authors and the readers on more of a personal level and not just a transactional, hey, let me tell you about my book and please buy it. So it was a lot more casual and conversational between everybody.
Yeah. I like that. I do like it when you can really get to know your readers as people and that they know you as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've also been hosting a book club online or over Zoom once a month. We all get together and read different authors that were participating in the cruise as well. I'm just kind of getting to know and understand everybody's books and stuff before we boarded. So that was really good. And I got the one thing that I would say that I really enjoyed the most is being able to meet a lot of the other authors out there and really
Mhm.
get to know everybody, get to know, what's marketing things that others have tried that work or don't work, different struggles that we're all going through, just trying to keep writing and moving on and we built a good number of friendships on that cruise.
Would you do it again?
I would do it in a heartbeat if I was given the opportunity.
Nice.
Awesome.
Perfect.
So I know 2027 the 2027 cruise is going to be announced soon if it's not already by the time this is announced. Hopefully I will be on board. And I hope you guys get to come too. I'd love if you guys could come.
Oh, seriously, it sounds like
Nikki, should we take our show on the road?
yes, totally.
Absolutely.
I would love to.
Record a podcast on the ship.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, because
Oh
we could
my
do it live,
God.
right? It'd be good in
Yeah.
person.
Absolutely.
It sounds like fun.
Right.
I would totally be into that. Do you have any advice for readers or other authors who want to go on the romance book cruise?
My advice, if you want to go, go. Don't debate it. Don't second guess it.
Just commit.
If you
Go all
see,
in.
yeah, just book it and go. I had another author friend who joined at the last minute because there was a spot that opened up, and she is of the same opinion. As soon as bookings open, gonna jump on board at all costs. Moving schedule around to fit the cruise.
So we were talking earlier about your writing process.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering, what is the weirdest thing you've ever had to Google for your books? Or is it all
So
experience? You don't have to Google anything.
no, I've definitely Googled some stuff. I've got one romance coming that is a little bit more conservative and will actually be the daughter of a priest. And I was Googling a bunch of stuff to I was actually researching more what are some biblical references that point more to love and acceptance and not the more, fearful or inacceptance stuff that you see reported a lot. So I was trying to dig through a lot of that. And for a little while, Google thought that I was training to be a youth pastor. I'm like, far from it, but, I appreciate it.
That's funny. Start getting ads for weird things.
Yes. My ad algorithm is always all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. So it sounds like you're pretty familiar with the cruise ship, having been on over 30 cruises. But have you ever learned any other things like fun facts, picked up new skills? I'm sure, your characters have different professions and different lives outside of the cruise ship. So anything you've learned along the way?
So I've learned to be kind of an amateur mixologist. I've been experimenting with different drinks to include at the bars around the cruise ship, make them fun and interesting and not just, a rum and coke or nothing like that. So I've kind of picked up mixology. That's
fun.
And my wife appreciates because, I'm making her fun exotic drinks or tiki drinks all the time. She's like, yes, absolutely.
So you can pretend you're on a cruise like any time of the year, even when you're not.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Will you ever put out like a mixology book of all the drinks that are in your book?
It might be a possibility. I definitely need to get through a lot more drinks in order to make that happen. But I'm willing to give it a shot.
Could also be some fun, just bonus content to send out to readers, though, just like little ingredients and recipe in your newsletter or whatever. That's always fun for readers.
Yeah.
So I do actually have in my special edition for Sapphire Seas, I do include one of my recipes I do.
Nice.
It's called the Scarlet Surrender. It's a lemonade martini or a strawberry lemonade martini. So
sounds delicious.
Yeah. I do love lemonade.
Yeah. And strawberries.
Yeah, right there.
No, my favorite joke is I'm fruity, but I'm not that kind of fruity. As an ace person, I just don't like fruit. No thanks, all around.
See, I'm a very big citrus person. Give me lime, lemon, orange in any type of dessert or drink. I'm there for it.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh my. So you published all these books. How did you celebrate finishing both the writing process of each book and then also on your release day?
So release day, I didn't do a whole lot, but again, I love cruising. I love everything to do with cruising. So I have taken 3 cruises in the past year to just not directly to celebrate the books being launched, but also not celebrating it.
Mm-hmm.
I have made it a habit of mine anytime I'm on a cruise ship to take a good handful of my books and just hide them around the ship. So that way, if you're cruising and you like reading, find one of my book, it's right there. And so they turn into a fun little scavenger hunt.
Awesome. When you go on these cruises, do you ever just ask the crew hey, can I set up an afternoon at some point?
I have not, but maybe I should be like, just, hey, I'm an author and I'd like to, hang out and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even
Maybe.
if they have
That might be
a
something.
gift shop and they're selling books, you could just be in there and then they could just stock your books and
that would be a dream for every cruise ship to just have my books on board. That would, some people might say that they want their books in the Barnes and Noble or, I want mine on the cruise ship. I want people to find my books while there's
yeah.
There's always time for reading while you're traveling, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So would that be your ultimate benchmark of what you would need to say I've made it as an author if you had your books on cruise ships, or is there anything else besides money that would be a goal of yours?
Yeah, I would have to say that would be a dream type of benchmark. To say that I have a contract with a cruise line for them to stock my books. Whether I sell 1 million copies or anything like that, I would just like to say that a cruise line, whoever it is. So if Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Virgin Voyages, if you're listening, give me a call. I will even rebrand the ship within my books to meet whoever decides to pick me up.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. I never even thought of that as a goal, but I guess
Yeah.
now we should put that on our list.
So
Well,
of all the cruise ships, I have not actually seen bookstore or anything like that on board, but there's always a first
Yeah.
time for anything.
got the
Oh
gift
my
shops,
gosh,
right?
that'd be
Yeah.
the first thing I'd look for. Where's the
Seriously.
Yeah,
bookstore?
even the gift shops don't have books in them.
No books.
Are you
That's crazy
serious?
talk.
No, but there's always a first.
Oh my
There's got to
gosh.
be somebody who's willing to take that chance, right?
That is
Let's
a
talk to their
missed
marketing team.
opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I don't know if we can go on a cruise then, Nikki. Not if there's no books there.
We'll just have to bring an extra suitcase with all of our books in it, won't we?
Okay, I
Well,
guess so.
that's why you
Oh my gosh.
that's why you come on the Lovelit cruise, because we bring
Yeah.
all the authors and books with us.
Yeah. So did you have tables and signing days? Did you sell books while you were there, or was it more casual mingling and things like that?
So it was a mix of everything. We had one day set up for panels and stuff where we had one panel dedicated to sex in books, one dedicated to I sat on one dedicated to mental health awareness. And a lot of fun there. And then the afternoon that day, the authors were each assigned to lead different activities aboard the ship. I led a group in a scavenger hunt, racing around the ship, trying to find some stuff. We wound up crashing a wedding during that scavenger hunt, which was awesome. They were getting set up and everything on the top deck for a wedding to take place. And we're like, hey, can we jump in and take some photos real quick? And so that was fun. And then we also, we had a shore excursion specifically for the group where the readers and authors we went out snorkeling, and tour guides caught conch and then cooked it up for us. And
Wow.
then we also had one day where we set up and did signing for everybody to come around in more of your traditional book event where you had your table set up. But most authors brought very little of stuff to actually sell. It was more of the readers bringing books that they had pre-ordered and whatnot to get signed.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
So you were just a small group on a big cruise. Did you meet some of the
Yes.
other passengers there or talk about books with them?
We did meet some other passengers, and some passengers would see us roaming the hallways. Every night we had like a different theme night. So we had people, one night was a fantasy night, one night was mobster night. So we all did dress up nights and stuff, and people around the ship would be like, why are you dressed as a dragon? And so then we would fill them in and stuff. And there was several that I interacted with. It was like, I am booking this next year. I want to be part of your group.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was fun. There was one night, my wife and I were, at the end of the night, we like to go and just sit in the hot tub, relax, and kind of decompress. One night we were sitting in with one reader and one person who wasn't part of the group at all. And this person just kind of opened up about all of her emotional traumas and stuff while we were just sitting in the hot tub and just sharing her entire life story. But then she realized that, I was an author and there was a reader in the tub as well, and she's like, oh my god, but all these books that I've read and stuff have helped me throughout the years, and I've really loved reading. And she's like, yeah, I want to come back too.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's really good connections made,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Yeah.
It is.
All right. Well, we have another question for you. Usually every week we like to have our authors ask one question to our listeners. So for all the listeners out there, we'll be posting this on our Instagram, and you can comment on our YouTube video. But JD, what would you like to ask?
I would like to ask, how interested are you in reading a romance from a male's perspective? And how excited would you be for that change of pace as opposed to what the mass majority is out?
It's a great question. And then we have one final question for you. And it's kind of a trick question. We always tease people with this one. But if you could read any
Is
trope.
it really a trick question?
It's not a trick question, but a lot of people struggle with it because, we like to read lots of different things, right? But
yes,
if you could read any trope for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Found family. I am a sucker for a conglomeration of people who come together with a similar interest. All of my books are very found family forward, but especially something like a found family of misfit toys, people who don't fit in anywhere else, but this particular group fits perfect. I'm there for that. That will, it gets me hooked every time.
That's a good one. And
That's
you
a
can
good
put that in
answer.
everything, right? Yeah. Any type of story could have found
Absolutely.
family in it. Yeah. I love that.
Yes, 100%.
Well, thank you so much for coming out and letting us peek behind the curtain of your author life, JD. Could you let our listeners know how to pre-order your next book or how to find out when it comes out?
So I don't have any pre-orders out there right now. I don't know when my next story is coming out, but definitely if you follow me on Instagram at JD Harbor would be the first place I would announce anything, and just kind of keep an eye out. And hopefully, I hope to have something else come by the end of this year. I do have one short story that I'm wrapping up right now that's part of a anthology that's supposed to be releasing later this year. That one's going to be based around Walt Disney World, or a romance at Walt Disney World. So that's fun. But kind of keep an eye out. Social media, I will have all the details when it's available.
Beautiful. Love that. Speaking of social media, where can our listeners find you on social media? We'll post these links in our show notes as well, but if you can just let us know.
Yes, so Instagram is where I hang out the most, at JD Harbor. Occasionally jump on to TikTok. I will admit that I struggle with knowing how to TikTok, but I will post on there occasion. I'm at jd.harbor. That's where you can find me. Also, you can find me on my website, jdharbor.com, and that will have links to anywhere else as well.
Perfect.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, JD, for coming out and talking to us today. And for everyone listening out there, if there's any questions that we should have asked that you think we should do a follow-up on, just let us know in the comments. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Awesome.
Thanks for getting dirty with us. If you had fun, leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. New episodes will be released every Wednesday, and we've got an amazing lineup of authors to share with you.
If there's someone you'd love to see on our show, or you've got burning questions for your favorite authors, send us an email to backstagewiththebookbabes@gmail.com, or leave us a comment on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, Backstage with the Book Babes. Links and applications for authors to join us as guests are at linktree/backstagewiththebookbabes.
You can follow me, Albie Blake, with that handle on social media, specifically Instagram and TikTok.
You can follow me, Nikki Jewell, and learn about my books at authornikkijewell.com. I'm also on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at NikkiJewell_books.
Thanks again for joining the party. Keep turning those pages and keep it spicy.